Ladies and gentlemen, there is a saying in the old teachings, before one can master the sword, one must master the breath. In the world of relationships, before we can walk hand in hand with another, we must first learn to walk in peace with ourselves. Many seek love with broken swords, sharpened by past wounds, dulled by unhealed emotions. But the true path, the Shaolin path, begins not with seeking the perfect partner, but with becoming the worthy one. In sacred text, we are told, love is patient, love is kind. Yet in modern life, we are often impatient and our kindness is conditional. Why? Because we have replaced devotion with desire. We chase feelings, not faithfulness. But a master does not chase the wind, he listens to it. Likewise, love must be still before it can move powerfully. In relationships, emotional chaos is like a sudden storm, loud, unpredictable, frightening. But the Shaolin warrior does not run from thunder. He finds stillness within it. When your partner is angry, do not match their fire. Be water. When they are distant, do not chase. Be steady. Stillness speaks louder than shouting ever could. But do not mistake stillness for weakness. Love requires sacrifice, not suffering. To sacrifice is to give willingly without bitterness. To suffer is to give what you do not want to lose. In Scripture, the greatest love was shown through sacrifice. Let your love be strong enough to yield and wise enough to hold ground. Presence is the foundation of peace. The Shaolin monk does not speak to impress. He speaks to connect. In your relationships, your presence matters more than your performance. One honest moment of listening, one quiet act of service can bring more intimacy than 1,000 words. And finally, guard your heart. Yes, guard it. But do not build walls so high that love cannot reach it. Proverbs remind us, above all else, guard your heart. But the heart was never meant to be hidden. It was meant to be guided, not imprisoned. Before one can master the sword, one must first master the breath. This ancient principle echoes far beyond martial arts. It is a timeless truth that applies to every aspect of life, especially relationships. Discipline before desire is the essence of a harmonious connection between two people. Many today are drawn into relationships not from a place of completeness, but from a place of emotional hunger. They enter hoping someone else will fill the emptiness they carry. But emptiness cannot love. It can only cling. When you lack personal discipline, emotional, spiritual, mental, you hand over the keys of your peace to someone else. You begin to depend on their mood for your happiness, their validation for your worth, and their presence for your sense of meaning. That is not love. That is dependency masked as devotion. And dependency, when unmet, turns to resentment. The teachings of the ancient Shaolin path emphasize inner mastery first. The warrior trains the body with repetition, patience, and discomfort. He eats simply, lives mindfully, and breathes consciously. Why? Because the strength of his strike means nothing without the stillness of his center. In the same way, the strength of your love means nothing without the clarity of your self-worth. Before entering a relationship, a person must ask, have I mastered my anger? Or does it still master me? Can I be patient in the presence of misunderstanding? Can I hold space without needing to control it? These questions are not romantic. They are spiritual. And yet, they are the foundation upon which romance can safely be built. Discipline teaches you not to speak when triggered. It teaches you to listen, not just to reply, but to understand. It trains you to observe your own patterns, the need to be right, the tendency to withdraw, the fear of being alone, and to meet them with grace rather than shame. It is this self-governance, this holy restraint that allows relationships to grow instead of fracture. Desire alone is never enough. Desire is a fire. It burns hot and bright, but fades quickly if not sustained by deeper values. Discipline is the wood that feeds the fire. Without it, passion becomes chaos, and chaos is where relationships fall apart. People confuse chemistry with compatibility, but chemistry is a spark. Compatibility is the capacity to maintain the flame. Scripture speaks to this truth in countless ways. In the book of Proverbs, wisdom is described as a tree of life to those who lay hold of her. Wisdom, not feelings. Discipline is the daily practice of wisdom. It tells you to pause when the flesh says speak, to serve when the ego says retreat, to forgive when the pain says punish. Love is not sustained by good days, but by the consistent decision to honor your principles on the bad ones. Discipline gives you eyes to see, not only the other person's flaws, but your own. And in seeing clearly, you love honestly. You do not place unrealistic expectations on another soul to fix what you have not faced within. You come not to take, but to share, not to be completed, but to complement. This is why the Shaolin master walks with calm, because he has already fought his inner wars. And it is why a disciplined lover can create peace in their home, because they no longer bring inner conflict into every conversation. The relationship becomes a reflection of the inner world, not a bandage for the wounds of the past. So before you seek a partner, seek discipline. Before you ask someone to trust you, ask yourself if you trust your own character. The one who walks in self-mastery walks with grace, not desperation. And in that grace, they do not just find love, they offer it. In life, storms are not optional. They arrive without warning, shaking the foundation of everything we thought was steady. In relationships, these storms often take the form of misunderstandings, emotional outbursts, disagreements, or moments of deep disappointment. But the mark of true maturity, of inner mastery, is not the ability to prevent storms, but the ability to remain still within them. The teachings of the ancient warrior monks show us that real power is not explosive, it is quiet. A master is not one who dominates a room with his voice, but one who can quiet his spirit in the midst of chaos. This same wisdom applies directly to our emotional lives. When your partner raises their voice, do you instinctively raise yours? When they shut down, do you demand attention? This is the reactive life. And where there is reactivity, there is no peace. The Shaolin tradition teaches the cultivation of stillness, not as a passive retreat, but as an active choice. In stillness, you do not suppress your feelings, you observe them. You watch the anger rise, but you do not act from it. You feel the hurt, but you do not let it speak for you. You sense the fear, but you remain grounded. This is not weakness, this is training. This is strength under discipline. When emotional storms come, they tempt us to react, to say words we later regret, to act from wounded pride, to escalate instead of resolve. But reacting is easy. It takes no effort to match negative energy with negative energy. What takes strength, what takes a warrior's heart, is to bring stillness into the storm. In Scripture, we read of the storm that raged as the disciples feared for their lives, but one remained asleep at peace. Christ did not panic with them. He calmed the waters. This is a spiritual image of how we are called to live, not as slaves to the weather of our emotions, but as anchors of peace in the relationships we enter. Your presence, when rooted in peace, can influence the emotional climate of your entire home. To be still in the storm does not mean to be silent in the face of injustice or abuse. Wisdom always distinguishes between peace and passivity. Rather, it means not allowing temporary emotional winds to uproot your deeper values. It means you don't let today's argument make you forget years of love. You don't let the heat of the moment melt the foundation of the bond you've built. Stillness is a sacred posture. It creates space for the truth to emerge, for healing to begin. When you choose not to react impulsively, you allow the other person to come down from their own emotional edge. You invite calm into the conversation. You create a safe space, not just for them, but for yourself. Most relationships do not fall apart from a lack of love, but from an inability to manage emotion. Two good people without emotional discipline can destroy something beautiful. That is why inner calm is not optional, it is essential. You must train your spirit like a monk trains his breath, slowly, deliberately, every day. Whether through prayer, meditation, or reflection, you must find your center so that when the storm comes, and it will, you are not thrown from your values. You remain as the tree planted by the river, not immune to the wind, but deeply rooted. Stillness in the storm is not something you wait for. It is something you prepare for, like a warrior who sharpens his blade long before battle. You must cultivate this stillness long before the argument, the disappointment, the moment of pain. And when it comes, you will not be undone. You will breathe, you will listen, and you will respond. Not from fear, but from wisdom. This is how love endures, not through the absence of conflict, but through the presence of peace. And peace, true peace, begins with you. Love, when spoken of in stories and scriptures, is often misunderstood as pain. Many say if it doesn't hurt, it isn't real. But this is not the teaching of the wise, it is the myth of the wounded. Love is not meant to be suffering. Love is sacrifice, and there is a profound difference. Suffering is what happens when we hold on to something that no longer serves our growth. Sacrifice, on the other hand, is what happens when we let go of something precious for the sake of something greater. The ancient path of Shaolin teaches that every act of devotion must begin with understanding. The monk wakes before sunrise, sacrifices comfort, and endures hardship not to prove something to others, but to purify the self. Similarly, in relationships, the act of loving deeply demands sacrifice, not of identity, not of dignity, but of ego, pride, and convenience. To love someone, in truth, is to willingly surrender some of your own preferences, routines, or impulses in service of the connection. This is not weakness, it is strength under control. It is what scripture calls laying down one's life for a friend, not through death, but through the daily practice of prioritizing peace over power, unity over victory, and understanding over being right. But there is a line between sacred sacrifice and silent suffering. Suffering in a relationship is when you lose yourself for the sake of another. It is when you tolerate disrespect in the name of loyalty or suppress your truth for the illusion of harmony. This is not what love was meant to look like. The greatest sacrifices are made from a place of freedom, not fear. Sacrifice in love looks like listening when it's inconvenient. It looks like forgiving when your pride still wants revenge. It looks like staying present when your emotions tempt you to withdraw. It does not mean becoming invisible. Rather, it means becoming fully alive in service of something bigger than your own comfort. The Bible tells us, "Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends." But this laying down is not always physical. It is emotional, spiritual, and relational. It is choosing to be patient with your partner when their wounds rise to the surface. It is choosing silence in moments when your words could do more harm than good. It is standing firm when they need your strength and stepping back when they need space. This is sacrifice, not loud, not dramatic, but steady. And yet, even in sacrifice, there must be wisdom. You do not pour endlessly from a cup that is already empty. You cannot carry a relationship alone. The Shaolin master sacrifices much, but never his center. In the same way, love calls you to give, but not to forget yourself in the giving. You are not meant to bleed out emotionally while calling it commitment. In every healthy relationship, there will be moments where you must give something up, a habit, a preference, a grudge. But when both people are walking this path, sacrifice becomes mutual and suffering disappears. Each person becomes a sanctuary for the other. They do not demand the impossible, they offer the sacred. They do not keep score of who gave more, they rejoice that they both gave something meaningful. Sacrifice creates room for growth. It opens the door for transformation. It says, I see the divine in you, and I am willing to adjust myself, not because I must, but because I choose to honor the bond we are building. This kind of love is not found in fairy tales, but in the quiet strength of two people who understand what it means to serve one another without losing themselves. So let us not confuse suffering for sacrifice. Let us remember that love is holy, and anything that robs us of our peace, dignity, or soul is not love, it is bondage. But when two hearts sacrifice with wisdom, not out of fear but out of faith, they create something unbreakable, something sacred, something eternal. In the modern world, love is often mistaken for performance. We are taught, subtly and constantly, that if we say the right words, buy the right gifts, dress a certain way, or create the perfect romantic gesture, we will be loved more deeply. But this belief creates shallow connections and fragile intimacy, because love that depends on performance will always crumble in the presence of imperfection. True love, the kind that lasts through seasons and storms, is not built on what you do, but on who you are when all doing stops. Presence, not performance, is the foundation of enduring love. In the Shaolin tradition, presence is everything. The warrior trains not only the body but the mind, anchoring himself fully in each moment. He is not thinking about the past, nor is he anxious about the future. He is here watching, listening, breathing. In relationships, this kind of presence is far more valuable than grand gestures or eloquent speeches. It is the quiet strength of being fully with someone, undistracted, undivided, and unhurried. Too many relationships today suffer not from a lack of effort, but from misplaced effort. A man may work tirelessly to provide, but forget to look into his partner's eyes with genuine attention. A woman may strive to please, yet never allow herself to be fully seen or known. We perform roles, wear masks, and follow scripts handed to us by society. But in doing so, we abandon the simplicity and sacredness of presence. To truly love someone is to offer them not just your time, but your awareness. Not just your resources, but your energy. Think of how a child feels safe. Not when their parent gives them everything, but when their parent is fully with them. When the phone is set down, the eyes are meeting theirs, and the world fades away. This is the kind of presence that heals, the kind that strengthens bonds. And it does not require effort. It requires intention. In scripture, we read of how even in silence, the presence of the divine brings peace. Be still and know that I am God. That same stillness, that sacred attentiveness is what we are called to bring into our relationships. It is not always what we say, but how we listen. Not how much we do, but how deeply we connect in the doing. Performance-based love creates anxiety. It tells us that we must constantly earn affection, constantly prove our worth. But presence-based love brings peace. It reminds us that we are accepted not because we are perfect, but because we are present. Because we show up open-hearted, honest, attentive. The Shaolin master does not rush. Every movement is deliberate, every breath conscious. He understands that the value of life is not in speed but in depth. And so it is with love. The depth of your presence will always matter more than the height of your performance. Being fully with your partner, even in silence, even in struggle, is more powerful than any gift or dramatic apology. This is why relationships built on performance eventually exhaust the soul. You feel like you're always on, always needing to impress, always needing to prove something. But when you shift from performing to simply being, the entire dynamic changes. You stop trying to earn love, and you begin to experience it. You stop trying to be perfect, and you start to be real. To love with presence is to look into someone's eyes and say, I am here, I see you, I hear you. I'm not trying to fix you, impress you, or control you. I'm just here, fully. This kind of love may not be flashy, but it is faithful. It doesn't always sing loudly, but it speaks deeply. In the end, the most profound moments in any relationship are not the big events, but the quiet ones. The shared meals, the silent walks, the unspoken understanding. These are not acts of performance. They are the fruit of presence. And when presence becomes your way of loving, you no longer need applause. You simply become the sanctuary where love can rest, grow, and endure. In every relationship, whether romantic, familial, or spiritual, there comes a time when silence becomes the loudest presence. Words fail, emotions overwhelm, and clarity seems distant. It is in these moments that the undisciplined mind looks outward, seeking answers, explanations, validation. But the path of wisdom, the path walked by the disciplined soul, turns inward. It asks not, why is this happening to me? But rather, what is this revealing within me? Self-inquiry, practiced with honesty and humility, becomes the mirror that reveals what the heart has hidden and what the spirit must confront. In the Shaolin way, before any warrior is trusted with a weapon, he is first handed silence. He is sent into solitude not to escape the world, but to face himself. There, without distraction, he meets the chaos within. And it is only by knowing the self, its triggers, its wounds, its desires, that one becomes worthy of deep connection with another. In love, as in life, the greatest breakthroughs begin with self-inquiry. Relationships are not merely about compatibility, they are about consciousness. Your partner is not just someone to love. They are often the clearest mirror of your inner condition. When you are triggered, what does that say about your past? When you feel unseen, what part of you have you not yet seen yourself? When you are impatient, where is your spirit still restless? These are not questions to shame you, they are invitations to grow. In the scriptures, we are told to examine yourselves to see whether you are in the faith. That call to self-examination is not limited to religion. It is a universal key to transformation. You cannot give what you do not possess. You cannot offer love if you have not yet faced the parts of you that resist it. And you cannot build a strong relationship on the weak foundation of an unexamined soul. Self-inquiry is not overthinking. It is observing. It is not judging yourself for your flaws, but compassionately becoming aware of them. When you ask, why did I react so strongly? Or what am I truly afraid of in this moment? You begin to unlock the subconscious layers that influence your relationship. You realize that perhaps your need for control comes from a childhood where you had none, or that your silence in conflict is a protective habit, not a reflection of peace. These insights are the first step toward freedom. Most arguments in relationships are not about the surface issue. They are echoes of unresolved pain. Without self-inquiry, you will repeat the same patterns with different people, hoping love will heal what only awareness can. But when you take responsibility for your inner world, you stop blaming and you start transforming. A disciplined warrior does not avoid discomfort. He leans into it with curiosity. In the same way, a conscious lover does not run from inner tension. They sit with it. They ask, what lesson is being offered to me through this discomfort? And how can I respond with awareness instead of reaction? This is how relationships mature. Not when both partners are perfect, but when both are committed to inward reflection. Self-inquiry humbles you. It reminds you that your perception is not the only truth, and that your partner's pain is not always a personal attack. It teaches you to listen better, not just to their words, but to your own heart. And in listening, you gain wisdom. You become less impulsive, more patient. You stop needing to win and start choosing to understand. In the end, the strength of your relationship will not be determined by how well you avoid conflict, but by how deeply you inquire into yourself during it. When two people are both willing to ask, "What is this teaching me about me?" then even the hardest seasons become sacred ground for growth. That is the fruit of disciplined self-inquiry, not just a stronger self, but a stronger love, rooted in awareness, watered by truth, and shaped by grace. What we must come to understand is this: relationships are not battlegrounds, nor are they fairy tales. They are sacred training grounds, where your spirit is tested, your patience refined, your ego exposed, and your love purified. The true master does not seek control over others, but seeks harmony within himself. For when there is harmony within, there can be peace between. You will not always get the words right. You will not always avoid pain. But if you choose stillness over reaction, sacrifice over selfishness, presence over performance, and self-inquiry over blame, you are walking the ancient path that leads not just to lasting love, but to spiritual evolution. Love is not something you conquer. It is something you become worthy of, through discipline, through humility, and through the daily decision to bring your highest self into every moment. And so take this with you. Do not fight to be loved. Train yourself to love well. In storms, be still. In trials, be truthful. In silence, be present. In suffering, be wise. And when you are tempted to react, pause and respond with the strength of one who has mastered not the world, but himself. This is the way not just of the Shaolin, but of all who seek to love with honor, with courage, and with grace.